of the Healthy Living Summit. We're excited to have you for another day of beautiful talk about how to survive COVID-19, and not only how to survive, but how to actually thrive through COVID-19. So far, just to give you a recap, on day one, we talked about fear and mastering our fears. We talked about the biological, the psychological, as well as the spiritual responses, which are parts of fear. And then we moved on day two into talking about boosting the immune system. And David Okamoto, I think I'm saying that right, he actually presented on the Fountain of Life, which is really this antioxidant which fights things like cancer, arteriosclerosis, heart disease, diabetes, and some of the studies have been quite powerful. So you want to take a look at that if you haven't seen that recap. Yesterday, we had an exciting talk about managing toxic relationships. And today we are talking about financial planning and budgeting, because as you know, we have come to a seesaw in terms of production. The people who are actually still working and moving through COVID are the people who are already online. So today we are talking about, you know, the flattening of the curve, right? Like we had money and then all of a sudden it was flattened. And so what we're talking about is not only how do we budget during this time, but how do we actually plan for the future? So if another COVID happens in another 100 years, how do you actually plan so that your children, and for example, yourself, who could live till you're 121, so you know, that lignant, that fountain of life could help you live to 120, which is how long we're supposed to actually live. And if you live that long, you need a retirement fund. You need to plan ahead. You need to make sure that you have prepared for yourself in this life. So today I'm excited to welcome Zainab Williams to talk to you and to do this financial planning. So let me tell you a little bit about her. Zainab Williams is the founder of Elverity, an independent wealth management firm who focuses on helping us to understand our own unique money stories. I love that, right? So her company aims to build the most, what she calls the work optional lifestyle for you. She was born in the Democratic Republic of Congo, and bearing witness to the wars that were in those territories after locating to Kenya, Zainab is passionate about community development and ending human trafficking, and is looking at starting a not-profit organization to focus on that particular endeavor. So Zainab, welcome to the Healthy Living Summit.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me, John.
You are welcome. So I'm going to turn the controls over to you. If you want to launch your PowerPoint, you can do that. I'm having problems with my words tonight. So if you want to launch your PowerPoint, you can go ahead and do that, and then we'll follow along.
Okay, so let's do this.
Are you able to see the share screen button?
Yes, let's just click on this.
Yes, and once you click the share screen, it should go up and you should be able to see which screen you want to share. There you go. Okay, great. So we can see you, and now you want to just put it into full presentation mode and we'll be good to go. Right. There you are.
Can you see that?
Yes, we're good.
Awesome. Well, hi everyone. Thank you for having me today. As John introduced me, I'm Zainab Williams, and I'm the founder and principal financial planner at Elverity. So we definitely do our best to work with women from various financial backgrounds, whether you're making $30,000 a year or $250,000. We all need that financial help So we are able to build the most achievable and personalized financial plan based on the goals that you have. So I just wanted to ask you if 2020 was a song or it was a movie reel, what could it be for you?
A song or a movie reel. So for those of you who are online, the chat is open. So Helen is online, and there's about 7 of us all together online. So please type your response. So the question is, if you were, and you can do it in the question and answer, or you can do it in the chat. So both are open.
Yes.
And the question is, if there was a song or a movie that represented, and what's it representing again, Zainab?
It's represented this year for you with your finances.
Right. So what would that song be?
I'd love to hear from you guys.
Elizabeth says, a movie, many movies, laugh out loud, different scenes. We want you to get specific now, Liz.
Yes, I'd love to hear your thought on that. Which scenes in particular?
Right. You know, and I'm kind of partial to Whitney Houston's song. I've been listening to that one, right? I want to dance with somebody, and you know, and dancing for me is just that vibrancy. And so when I think about 2020 and my year of finances, I want to dance with other people as I build something to make some money. So that's kind of how I think about it. So Helen,
I love this. Groundhog Day.
Groundhog Day. Really repetitive. I haven't seen
Groundhog Day. Helen.
Okay. And then
for me,
okay, Liz is still thinking about it. So if you're still thinking,
yes,
you know, feel free to enter your responses here anytime that you're ready.
So you know what? For me, it was at first it was Mission Impossible. You know why? Because a lot of the times you usually get that message, right? Like 2020 came through with there will be a pandemic. Okay, the market will go haywire. There will be job losses. This message self-destruct in 5 seconds. Should you accept this mission? Right. And I had to pause and I said, I never signed up for this, right? This is not what I signed up for. But then it also made me start to remember that song by Destiny's Child, I Am a Survivor?
Yes.
I am a survivor. That's my song. That's what really gets me in the morning. Like I'm a survivor. I'm going to make it.
Right.
That is the song I usually just play in my head whenever I feel like, you know what, this is overwhelming.
Yes. I love that.
Right. Yeah. And I would also like to ask you, what has been top of mind for you due to COVID-19? Is it the lack of job security? Is it the volatility in the markets? Has it been your health? Like, there are so many things going on because of this time. We are trying to just navigate through it, trying to figure out like, how exactly can I be able to take back control? Right? So
that's a great question, right? So guys, if you're on and you're listening to this, the question is, what's your primary concern? You know, what has been kind of that one thing when you think about the COVID and in terms of how it's impacting you? So just type those responses in as you come on as well.
So, okay, Elizabeth, I really like that one. Impacting, you know, you're worried about your kids right now, right? Yeah. Is it, which type of worry? Is it because of you trying to help them during this time, or what exactly is the main worry for your kids? The long-term aspect A lot of parents are going through that type of fear, trying to understand how exactly will this impact my kids in the long term? How are they absorbing everything? Because a lot of the times children might not articulate their fears, but they are going through something. At least as adults, we're able to actually say that I am stressed, I am worried. But then to a child, they might just be absorbing. So that's a really good one, Elizabeth. Thank you for sharing that.
Yes. Yes.
So before we really dive in, I really wanted to share with you my story as to why I do what I do and where exactly I come from and what has been my journey. So John mentioned that I was born in the Democratic Republic of Congo, in the DRC. So when I was young, my parents got divorced. And during that time period, when you are divorced in the DRC as a single woman, it is quite challenging for you to be financially stable. So growing up, I saw my mom go through so many various emotions when it came to finances. She had to fight. She was a fighter. She was working with the UN, and she would always just work so hard with so much grace and patience. It was quite a lovely thing to see. Also made me realize that if you don't have money, it's tough to survive in this world. So in my mind, I always knew that I needed to have some sort of financial support. I needed to have money in my back pocket. So once the war escalated, we moved to Kenya, where again, my mom was working with the UN. I would go with her on some of her work missions. I would really feel that she was going through so much, and yet she was always a giver. So that was one of her many qualities that I really admired, like just being able to be a giver. And eventually we came to Canada. And so when I was going to university, we had a really good family friend who told us about this opportunity in Congo, whereby we would be building an agricultural business. So we would create jobs. We would also get a good return on our investments because Congo tends to import a lot of food. So it was a fantastic opportunity. We knew him, we trusted him. So because I was always living a very frugal life, so what I would do with my OSAP would be, I would try my best to stretch my dollar as much as possible. If there were books to buy on any subject, I would actually approach the professor and say, look, if you're only going to be changing a chapter in this book, I'm not going to be spending $250 on it. So I would really stretch my dollar. So I had saved a lot. And because I felt that this was a really great opportunity, I ended up investing with him. My mom did the same, and a lot of our family friends did the same thing. So when at first it was going well, essentially he would send us pictures of how the projects were coming along, what kind of hurdles he was facing. We felt good, we felt secure, we felt like, oh my gosh, you're making a difference. And then eventually he just stopped communicating, just disappeared. He disappeared with everything. Wow. So at that time, I was so shaken because I had trusted him. He was a friend, we had known him, right? So I went through a process of anger, trying to understand, like, why would he do this to me? Why would he do this to us? And then there was fear. We had bills to pay. We had a mortgage that we needed to maintain. My mom had lost her job. So we all had to leave our house so that someone else would come in and continue making those mortgage payments. And there was shame. I felt like, why didn't I see this? How couldn't I see this? Why did I go against my own financial philosophy of always having a support system? I felt so much shame, so much anger, but I realized that I couldn't continue staying in this kind of headspace, because when you're consumed with so much fear, anger, shame, you are so paralyzed and you can't move forward. So what I decided to do was I needed to take control of my finances. I needed to start creating my debt repayment strategies. I needed to start rebuilding my credit. I had debt that they were staring at me and I was staring back, and it was staring competition. And the debt would eventually just win this one out because there was nowhere else for me to go. So this is why for me, being a financial planner, it's all about having that sense of guidance and protection and integrity in everything that I do, because I know what it feels like when someone you trust takes financial advantage of you. I've been there. So that's why I'm able to empathize with my clients, to let them know I've been there. Let's go through this journey together and rebuild this. And I know that we've been through fear. We are going through fear right now. We're feeling shameful because we're now asking ourselves, what happened? Why didn't I save money? Why didn't I invest? Why didn't I do this? And then the anger is, I just got laid off. How could my employer do this to me? I've been working for them for years and then they're laying me off right now. How could they? So these are the types of emotions that really, they are the blockers to financial success.
Absolutely.
And we really need to start defining our own narrative and taking charge.
That's an amazing, amazing journey that you've been on. And, you know, we talk about our purpose coming out of our most painful moments, and your purpose is coming not only out of that childhood moment of seeing your mom struggle, but always having the grace to just keep moving forward. And then experiencing, you know, this really traumatic story of and grieving the loss of not only trust in another person, but also your financial security. And so being able to move beyond that to now just really not only position yourself, but then help other people position as well. That's amazing. And I just want to commend you for that.
Thank you. We definitely all have a journey. We all have our own unique money stories, but I think that we're also very resilient.
Yes.
We're all resilient. And that's why I really would want us to start understanding our journeys so that we can start taking the necessary steps to move ahead instead of plateauing in what we're in right now. Because there are opportunities, there are options for us, as long as we're willing to actually look at those options and find them.
Nice.
So I wanted to ask you a question. What do you feel about the word budget?
Okay, come on, everyone.
I'd love to hear from you guys because
I'm participating here. And so when you hear the word budget, what words come to mind? Type away.
And by the way, I'm not shameful in actually picking people to participate.
Sometimes I think when we're online on a webinar, we can't be selected to answer the question. So Liz says, my husband.
Oh,
and
Elizabeth, I love that. Do you find yourself hiding your spending from your hobby?
Yes, and Cami said the words that come to her are time consuming.
Time consuming, yes. It's like, where am I going to find the time to do this, right? Like, what can I do about this? Okay, that's fair enough.
Yeah, she does find herself hiding. I think that's what she's saying yes to.
And you know, some other words that I've heard from people are restrictive, right? I have to meet my lifestyle.
Yes.
Crucial. I have to have it. Okay, so Helen has said something really interesting. She has said that I have to have it in order to meet my lifestyle. I had a background with nothing too, so it's crucial. So
Yeah.
she has felt that pain of navigating through her finances, and now she feels that, you know what, budgeting is not such a nasty word. Okay, that's fair enough, Helen. It's interesting because some people have a negative connotation with the word budget, while others are okay with it. It's like, I know where I've been, I can create this budget. And from other clients, I felt like they've said that, you know what, I feel like my money is controlling me and I'm not the one taking control of my finances. So that's what budget is. So in a psychological spin on that, there is something called a spending plan.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same way as a budget. However, psychologically speaking, because we feel like we're building a spending plan, we feel like we're more aligned to actually go through the motions because we're spending. And it's really interesting to see that, because when you do have the spending plan, you feel like you have control. You're actually in charge of your spending. That's what I've heard from clients, that there is that little mind shift in terms of the words themselves. Mm-hmm. What I'd like to share is that if you don't have a spending plan, you can fall into some pitfalls.
Yeah.
And some of these are, you feel like there is more month than money. You get that? Like there's always so many bills to pay, but you just don't have enough money. And then you have no idea of any unknown financial leaks. Like, where are they? Why do I always feel stressed? Where does my money go? And then you don't have a defined role for your money. Because the funny thing about money is this: money is a poor master, but a great servant. If it knows that John always has a role for me on a monthly basis, it's going to work for you. But if it doesn't have a role, it will find a way to actually work in someone else's pocket. So it will come from your pocket and work into someone else's pocket who has a defined role for it. So it's really important for you to start understanding that every dollar that you have needs to have a defined role.
I just love that. You know, I love the way that, you know, that metaphor of, if I have a worker and I don't have a role for that worker is going to find a way to work for somebody else, right? Yep. And so if I don't have what my spending is about and what my plan is for my worker, which is my money, then my worker is going to just walk out the door and work for somebody else. That's
absolutely.
What a wonderful way of presenting that. And it just makes it come alive.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because, like, look at Amazon. When you tap your credit card, right, they already know that this is our margin for this month. This is how much money we need to make. So we need to entice Helen or Elizabeth. So you, because you didn't have a role for that money, for your $10 or $20, it will find its way to Amazon because it already has been defined in their own budget. So, and then another thing to take into consideration is that if you don't have a spending plan, it's really hard for you to be able to manage your debt, because once you don't have your monthly number, you don't have an idea of how much does it take on a monthly basis to run my household. It becomes more easier to rely on credit rather than looking at your own numbers and seeing how exactly you can be able to streamline your finances towards working for you. Just trying to go to the next page. And these are the benefits for having a spending plan. You actually reduce your expenses because you now know where exactly your essential expenses are and which ones aren't, because you've already defined your expenses. You know, this is what I need on a monthly basis, and then this is the money that I don't need on a monthly basis. And then how exactly can you be able to plug those financial leaks? So if you know what exactly are the gaps right now in your finances, you're able to understand that, you know what, if I'm able to stretch and massage this part of my spending, I can be able to start saving more on this side. So you're able to understand that there are gaps that exist, and you can have some flexibility in terms of how you're spending. And you can be able to have a better debt repayment strategy if you already know that this is what my spending goal is. And you become more proactive, and you're able to have more control of your finances. And so how exactly can we be able to build an effective plan? Everything in your finances begin with a goal. You need to have an understanding of, why am I here spending my money? Because it is very hard to make money. So you need to be able to know, well, I have my short-term goals, which are less than 1 year, or I have my 5-year plan or 10 plus years. But you need to be able to start understanding and defining your actual goals. And in this time period, we're in what we call a survival spending strategy, because there's so many uncertainties that your 1 year goal might be a 3-month goal or a 6-month goal, because there's so many moving parts. People are losing their jobs, people are working on reduced hours. So this survival strategy is going to be different for everyone, because your spending plan, Joan, might look differently from Helen's or Ameze or Cammy's, because you might have different priorities. Some might just be focusing right now on the basic needs, like paying for my rent or my mortgage or my house or my food, whatever it is. You'd have different priorities. And an important thing is, please input an emergency fund in your finances right now. An emergency fund, it is cash that is readily available to you, just in case you have a job loss, something happens, you can be able to at least get by for 3 months, 6 months, or even a year. That's a main priority right now. After you have your needs, your emergency fund, you can get into your bill payments. Essentially, the bill payments are the ones where you have that flexibility to defer those payments.
So a question for you, because
yes,
we are in the middle of COVID. Some people are working and some people are off. So, you know, you might be getting that $2,000 a month, for example, from the government as kind of like what you can spend, you know, over the next several months, however long this lasts. So even now, should you be taking a part of your income, however small it is, and then putting that into an emergency fund? Or is this the time of emergency that you should be grabbing those funds and using them right now?
So now the question is, because we've just said we have no idea how long this thing will last. And the government support systems, we're going to get into that, but they are also limited, right? Limited government support system. We have no idea when this pandemic will peak, and then eventually we'll start regaining some sense of normalcy. It's really important for you to start building that emergency fund, because you have no idea what's going to happen. No one knows. We're not just looking at reduced hours, people are losing jobs, we're also looking at the health aspect of this. So we're juggling so many things, And in this kind of context, cash is king.
Yeah.
So you need to build your emergency fund.
Okay.
Okay. And when it comes to these goals also, please involve your family. Talk to your spouse. Tell them how you feel about this, what kind of fears you're going through, how you can start lessening that fear by putting something together. Involve your children. Let them know this is, the family is going to be spending less on ABCD. Do you guys have any ideas on how we can save more money? Make it more fun so that they also take part in this, so that they are vested in the spending plan. Because if there's going to be any restrictions, then you might end up getting frustrated and then just giving it up. So it's important to involve everyone so that you're all on the same page, you're speaking the same language, and you're all working towards a common goal as a family unit. Okay? And the second part of this is it's really important for you to identify your income, what exactly is coming in after taxes. If you have child tax benefit, if you have spousal support, whatever it is, make sure you outline, this is the income that's coming into my household right now. And then also, what exactly are your expenses? I would advise you to download at least 2 months worth of your expenses to see where you spend your money. Okay? And what I'll do is I will be sharing an actual spending plan. It will have an initial and then your revised spending. So all the attendees, I will be sharing with you a spending plan and how to build one. So I'll be sharing that with you. But it's really important for you to understand that even if you spend $2 on coffee, write it down. Make sure everything is accounted for, because you really want to have a very clear picture of where your money goes on a monthly basis. And then the third part is this: you need to separate your needs from your wants. Your needs are totally different from your wants, because if you don't pay your mortgage, you'll be out of your house. If you buy those 3 pairs of shoes in multiple colors, you can still survive with just 1 pair, right? Start prioritizing your expenses, understanding what exactly is a need and what exactly is a want. And then from there, once you understand all of that, start asking yourself, what exactly are my spending triggers? Why do I spend the way I spend? Is it because when I'm stressed, I feel good when I swipe my card, or when I'm happy, I really want to spend more? Like, where exactly does your spending habit come from? And do you have a healthy relationship with your money? There are people who make so much money, but because they have a defined narrative of what their money is supposed to be, they tend to forget that it's money that's supposed to work for them and not the other way around. So what type of relationship do you have with your money? This is a time when we have a lot of time on our hands to start exploring this facets of our finances and understanding who we are with our money. It's really, really critical for you. And it's once you have all of those defined needs, defined wants, you understand your money story, you need to put your plan into action. I want you to, like I said before, it's important for you to save emergency fund, start funding that. Okay? Remove your credit card information from all the websites that you have. Because when it's easy for you to spend your money, it doesn't feel like you're doing anything wrong. But when you take a pause your brain starts to question your spending. Like, do I really need this right now? Well, we just bought this. So it's really important to get into that habit of questioning your spending. So that's why it's important for you to remove your credit card information online, unsubscribe from all your retailers, because every time you see 20% off, your heart starts to palpitate, because you feel like, oh my gosh, I'm missing out. You're not missing out, because it's really critical for you to start becoming very lean with your finances.
Yeah, and it's the small things too, right? Because I was just, one of the things I do a lot is I read. And so I have Amazon, on my phone, on my iPad, on my computer. And so every time I see a new book, I'm tempted to just hit the, you can do that one click, and then and
I know the one click.
But then by the end of the month, I have 5 books, and like I'll start to read the 5 books, and it's like, okay, and then it trickles off, and maybe I get to like the 3rd chapter of each book kind of thing. And then the next month I do the same thing, right? So at the end of the month, I'm maybe spending $100 on books that, I might get to them at some point, because I always do, but do I need them? No. And those are like little small things. They're like my coffee. Like I don't run out and buy the coffee, but I buy the books, right? And so, you kind of have to monitor who you are, what your spending is, and some of the one-click moments, right?
So Joan, having said that, then what will be your plan of accountability?
Well, today what I did was I downloaded the sample, and that was enough of a satisfaction for me.
You scratched the itch.
I clicked the button and it was just download the sample. And so I started reading the sample.
You know what? At least you took a pause, right? And you understood that, right? That every little bit counts. As long as you're conscious about it, you become more cognizant of your habits, and you're able to actually not react, right? Not just click away. You question yourself, and that's what we need to be doing, questioning ourselves. And that makes a huge difference. So I'm glad you shared that. Has anyone else gone of their monitoring? Like, is anyone else going through the same thing Joan went through in terms of your spending and understanding what are some of the areas you need to just making some adjustments?
Use the chat, guys. For some reason, the question and answer seems not to be pulling up right now. I think I have to be into the regular screen. So use the use the chat to write your responses to that. Anyone else notice their inclinations to purchase certain things, and how do you control that? So if you want, you can type that in for us.
Guys, I'd love to hear from you, because it's the little bit that help.
Yes. Okay, as the responses come up, I'll read them. For now, there are
Helen, that's a good one. I do the same. I virtual shop and pretend I'm buying it online. I love that.
Put it on my wish list or a cart, but not pay, and then delete the next day. It works. I'm going to do that too, Helen. That's wonderful. That's a great idea.
I love that. I absolutely love that.
Yeah.
So
window shopping online, right?
Yeah. Whatever helps you in this moment, Helen, that's all it takes.
Yes.
So then once you've gone through the exercises, just monitor and make the adjustments as necessary, because I would advise you to do this actually once a week. Go back into your spending plan and look and see, am I still on track? Did I miss anything? There's some unexpected expenses that I didn't account for. So when you look at it from a weekly basis, you're able to make those adjustments, because they're faster. They're faster in your mind. You know that they're small adjustments, but if you end up waiting, it's like a month or 2 months, you start to feel like it's such a huge sacrifice to make those adjustments which have accumulated. So weekly check-ins are really important. And we're getting more responses. Yeah. I use Book Hub for books and only buy the $0 books. Oh, Roseanne, I didn't know about that because I $0. That's amazing. I'm an emotional eater, and this is from Cami. I would review my banking and see how much money I spent on food outside of the house. Cami, quick question for you. Do you feel like you have reduced your spending because we're not going out, we're not going to restaurants, we're not doing anything like that? No? Okay. Cami will get back to me. Oh, yes, 100%. Absolutely. So there is something of us reclaiming some of our narrative from this COVID-19.
Absolutely.
We're making adjustments. And then Helen, it's amazing how we forget that what we buy and what we don't need and just want.
Yeah.
Absolutely, Helen. And that's why weekly check-ins are so important for us during this time, to make sure that we're making those crucial adjustments. So I'm glad that people have been inputting some of these strategies in place, John. Which is, I applaud you for that. So, John, you asked me about the support systems, right?
Yes.
The reason why I chose to put this slide after the spending plan is because once you've gone through your spending plan, you're able to see what gaps exist. And then when the support system comes into play, you're able to actually fill those gaps where there is a hole to be filled. Because if you were starting to get your support payments without understanding how you're spending your money, you're going to feel the same amount of stress because you're spending it at the same level you were spending prior to this whole adjustment. So it's important to understand your numbers. And the government has had a couple of initiatives that came into play. So there's the Canada Emergency Response Benefit, or the CERB. That's just such a throat twister. And there has been some adjustments to the CERB, because the first time it got introduced, they said that if you don't have any income, then you can be able to qualify for it, provided that you have some other, you've met some other requirements as well. But what they did was, because a lot of people are facing reduced income, they're saying that if you're able to get $1,000 from your job, you can now apply for the CERB. So which is a huge adjustment, because some people were getting $1,000 due to reduced hours, and then when they tried to apply for the CERB based on the prior rules, they couldn't qualify, even though their income was drastically adjusted. And so we also have the Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy. So this is for business owners, and then the Canada Emergency Business Account, the CEBA. So this is to help you with interest-free loans. There are some stipulations surrounding that. So it's important for you to be able to know if you qualify for any of this. And I really like the fact that now they have the student loan payment deferred for 6 months. It's quite helpful because you're not actually going to be paying any interest on this. And if you have any questions regarding any of this support systems in place, I've provided you the link on where to exactly go, or you can even ask me. I have no issues answering that. But also in terms of financial institutions, if you feel like your mortgage is such a huge debt burden for you, you can contact your bank to see how you can be able to defer those mortgage payments. I know that the interest will continue to accrue on the loan when you defer it, but if right now you're not able to make your mortgage payment, it's best to be able to get that relief of payment because your situation is it's urgent. Okay, and auto insurance, people, if you can be able to contact your insurance provider right now, let them know that, you know what, can I be able to qualify for a refund on the premiums I've been paying you? Can they be able to reduce my premiums because I'm not even driving my car? So start looking through your spending plan and looking at areas where you can either reduce your payment or you can actually defer your payment. Because if you're not able to actually to really make your spending lean, it's very hard to make those payments on a monthly basis, especially when you have a reduced income. And also, I heard that Enbridge Gas, they have a one-time financial grant of up to $500 for eligible low-income customers. And your credit cards that are charging you 20% a year, you can contact your bank to see how they can be able to reduce those interest payment. So has anyone gone through the process of the support systems like the government? How do you feel about all of this?
Yeah, let's hear from you guys. Roseanne asked the question, is there any support for folks whose EI benefits have not kicked in yet?
So with this, so essentially with the CERB and the EI, what they've done is if you're already getting your EI, then you can't apply for the CERB. But if you haven't received your EI yet, you can apply for the CERB. Does that answer your question, Roseanne?
Yeah, I think it does. And the auto insurance one is like, I never would have thought of that. You know, like I haven't driven my car, you know, since this whole thing. My husband, he does the shopping. Every once in a while, I might go down to the store, but we're not driving our car. So, you know, it should almost be like the auto insurance should just automatically, you know, be issuing this, but I guess they don't know who is still working. So contacting them and saying, I'm not driving, I never would have thought of it. That's great.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Every dollar at this time counts. Mm-hmm. If you can go through your spending and see where exactly I can be able to save some money, take that opportunity. And once you've made that decision to save as much money as possible, it becomes a little bit easier to build up your spending, your emergency fund. Because now you're not making those unnecessary payments. If your car insurance company is willing to give you a refund because you haven't driven your car, that premium of $250 or $300 if you're living in Brampton, where insurance rates are atrocious, it makes a huge difference to save whatever you can right now. Mm-hmm. Right? So in terms of the support systems, you got that link. I wanted to also share with you some of the questions that I have been receiving during the pandemic as well, that I think that we can be able to have a good discussion. So the first one is, what do I do with my current investments? When the markets went haywire and there was a huge decline in people's investments, that fear made people really either get panic attacks or decide to sell. Mm. I'm telling you, if you have a long-term investment strategy, if it's 5+ years, stay the course. In 2008, when there was that market crash, everyone who decided to sell their position, they actually crystallized their losses. So that means you've realized the loss on paper. And then once they saw that the markets were going up, they were trying to time the markets and go back in. So now you sold at a loss. And then once the markets are going up, you're buying at an expensive price. Mm-hmm. So look at your investments and look at your strategy. If it's long-term, 5+ years, you don't need that money right now, just stay the course. And we have a saying in the investment world. So investments are like a bar of soap. The more you touch it, the smaller it becomes. So stay the course, guys. I know it's scary, but stay the course. So another question, another statement is, I want to start investing because the markets are cheap right now. What should I do? So the first thing for you to understand is do you have a long-term investment horizon? Do you need your money right now? If you don't need your money right now, you have a long-term investment horizon. My other question is, how do you feel about the markets going up and down? Do you feel sick and queasy, or are you okay with it? So what's your risk tolerance? Because it's very volatile right now, and it's really important for you to be able to understand what kind of investor you are. So if you've already also built your actual emergency fund, remember what we're discussing, you need to save your emergency fund right now, then you have extra money to invest. And the way you can be able to do that is you can go through your investment, like it's called dollar cost averaging. So that means you can be able to buy your funds today at $10, next week at $8, the other week at $5. So you're actually averaging your investment, and this actually helps you in the long run because you'll be able to accumulate more funds at a cheaper rate compared to someone who just kept all their investments today at $10. So there are different strategies for different people when it comes to investment. And so what do I do if I'm already withdrawing from my investments because I'm retired or I got laid off? So how exactly is how did your investment advisor structure your investment? That's the question I would ask you. Was it invested in just stocks? Was it just invested in bonds? Or was it invested in the money market? So if it was invested in the money market, it means that it wasn't exposed as much to the market. So it would be better for you to look at a strategy where you're withdrawing from that pool of money instead of all the others. But it's really critical for you to speak to your financial advisor, investment advisor, to know how exactly you're invested. I hope that wasn't too much. I would really love to hear from you if you have any other questions that are kind of going through your mind right now. I see that Helen has a comment.
Yeah, she says, try to consolidate all credit cards to one bank that's offering a lower interest rate now to consolidate if you cannot get a small personal loan.
Trying to control credit cards to one.
CERB was given if we made 5,000
plus.
Year, right? So there was that stipulation. So
yeah.
IBC that's in British Columbia. Helen is in British Columbia.
They're not lessening auto insurance, but maybe because they started a new program, because on mileage that we get refund back next year. So based on what Desjardins is doing right now, they're asking all their anyone who has a Desjardins policy, contact them to see if they can be able to get an actual insurance refund or reduced in premiums. Yes, Helen, in terms of the CERB, yes, there are so many other stipulations. I didn't go through them because I was just focusing on $1,000. If that's what you are making, they're willing to top up with a CERB because that was one thing that impacted a lot of people. So there are other stipulations. You need to be 15 plus years, $5,000. And if you are a business owner, $5,000 in income, not revenue, because there is a distinction. And yeah, so there are many other stipulations, but your other comment was try to consolidate all credit cards to one, as banks offering lower interest now to consolidate if you cannot get a small personal. Absolutely. If you can be able to get all your debt under one payment at a lesser cost, anything to help you out during this time makes perfect sense. Do you guys have any other questions, comments? I'd love to hear from you.
Yep, and we have just about 4 minutes to go. We'll take those questions now. We try not to go beyond the hour because, as we promised, this is a 7 to 8.
Perfect.
Any questions that you may have, then we'll respond to those at this time. And then if you wanted to close off, Zainab, then you
For sure. Well, what I wanted to leave with you, with everyone is this. You are strong. You will get through this. You are a survivor. Have faith and own your own financial narrative. If anyone has any questions, you can definitely book your complimentary consult. You can go on my calendly.com, Alverity Wealth, and I'd be happy to chat with you just to see where you're at, because everyone's financial situation is different. Don't feel any shame. Don't cry over spilled milk. You've got this. You can be able to move forward. And you can contact me. There's my contact information, and follow me on Alverity Wealth, Instagram and Facebook.
Wonderful. So Elizabeth says, that was informative. Thank you. Helen was asking also, do we pay taxes on the CERB funds next year?
Yes, you do.
Okay. And then what's the best percentage to put aside on the $2,000? So if you're getting $2,000 a month, what's the best percentage to put aside for that emergency fund?
I have no idea about your specific financial situation. However, the rule of thumb is usually 10% in savings, 20% towards debt repayment, and 70% towards your living expenses.
Wonderful, wonderful. Zainab, this was very, very informative. I want to thank you very much for being here tonight. I hope those of you who were listening also had a good time. This was a very interactive and fun webinar. Just love the questions that you posed to all of us. Have a wonderful night, everyone, and join us tomorrow. Helen is online. You have seen her a couple of times. Helen is a prayer warrior, and man, she is, an encourager and a warrior and just a magnificent friend of mine. And so tomorrow we are actually dialoguing, and we are gonna actually pray together. She is going to be presenting on intercessory prayer, right? So we intercede in these times, and we intercede in specific ways. So she is going to talk about that. So I invite you to come back, send the word out to your friends. Let's pray together during this time of COVID, and let's learn about how to do that effectively. And tomorrow our time changes to 5 p.m. So keep that in mind. 5 p.m. tomorrow for intercessory prayer, 5 p.m. on Sunday also for our workshop then. And then on the Monday, we go back to 7 p.m. and Jeffrey Saul will be presenting on meditation. So I'm looking forward to that as well. So that's it for the Healthy Living Summit. Thank you for signing on with us, and have a great evening, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.